Love has a way of making us believe in forever. I had built my world around him, Jason, the man who once swore that I was his everything. We had spent years together, crafting dreams, whispering promises under the moonlight, and believing that nothing could ever break us apart. But love is deceptive. It blinds you to the cracks forming beneath your feet. I didn't see it coming, the betrayal that would rip through my soul like a cruel storm. And when it happened, when Jason walked away with another woman, I was left shattered. But the thing about heartbreak is, it either destroys you or remakes you. In my return, it would be unlike anything they had ever expected. Jason and I met in the most unexpected way, one of those serendipitous moments that seemed too perfect to be real. It was a rainy evening and I had been standing outside a bookstore, fumbling with my umbrella, when a gust of wind turned it inside out. Just as I struggled to fix it, Jason appeared, laughing as he held out his own umbrella to shield me. That was the beginning. Our love story unfolded like something out of a novel, long drives with music blaring, late-night conversations that turned into whispered confessions, and the feeling that we were invincible. He made me believe in fairy tales. "I will love you forever," he had once said, his fingers tracing patterns on my palm. I should have known. Forever is a word spoken too easily with no guarantee of truth. Looking back, the signs were always there. The late replies to my messages, the sudden need to stay late at work, the coldness creeping into his voice. But love is blind, and I convinced myself that Jason was just tired, just stressed, just distracted. Then there were the missing weekends. He would cancel plans last minute, his excuses always lined with just enough logic to make me doubt my own suspicions. "Something urgent came up," he would say, brushing a kiss over my forehead before slipping out the door. I should have seen it. I should have questioned it. But I was too wrapped up in loving him to notice that he had already stopped loving me. It happened on a Friday evening. I had planned a surprise, candles, dinner, everything he loved. I even wore the dress he once said made me look like a dream. I waited, watching the clock tick by, convinced that he would walk through the door any second. But he never did. Hours passed and worry gnawed at me. My calls went unanswered, my messages left unread. Then, by pure accident or maybe by fate, I saw it. A friend sent me a photo, her message laced with hesitation. "I didn't know how to tell you, but I thought you should see this." And there it was, Jason standing in a restaurant, his arm wrapped around another woman, looking at her the way he used to look at me. It felt like the air had been stolen from my lungs. My hands trembled as I zoomed in, hoping, praying that I was mistaken. But there was no mistake. He wasn't just with her. He was holding her close, whispering in her ear, his smile filled with the kind of warmth I hadn't seen in months. I don't remember how I got there. One moment I was staring at my phone, the next I was standing inside that very restaurant, my heart pounding like a war drum. My legs felt weak, my vision blurred, but my pain burned hotter than any fear. And then our eyes met. For a split second I saw shock flash across Jason's face. But it was gone too quickly, replaced by something colder, indifference. The woman beside him, the one I now knew as Emily, looked between us, a slow smirk curling on her lips. He knew. She had known all along. "Jason," my voice wavered, but I forced myself to stand tall. "Who is she?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't want you to find out this way." This way? As if there was a right way to betray someone. People were staring now, their whispers growing. But Jason didn't care. He simply leaned back, his gaze settling on me with an eerie calmness. "It's over," he said, just like that. "I've moved on." The words hit like a slap. But the worst part wasn't his betrayal. It wasn't even the way Emily laughed beside him, her fingers tracing circles on his wrist. It was the realization that, to him, I was nothing more than a forgotten chapter. I left that restaurant with my dignity barely intact. The moment I got home, the floodgates broke. I collapsed onto the floor, sobs racking my body as the pain consumed me. I wanted to scream, to rip out my heart so I wouldn't have to feel the agony spreading through my chest. How could he do this? After everything? Nights turned into weeks. I barely ate, barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them, Jason and Emily, happy and free, while I was drowning in the wreckage of what we used to be. I had given him everything. My love, my trust, my dreams. And he had thrown it all away as if I were nothing. But pain has a way of reshaping you. And in the darkness of my despair, something inside me began to shift. I wouldn't be the broken girl he left behind. No. I would become something else. Something stronger. Something he would never see coming. It started small. I dragged myself out of bed. I forced myself to eat. I deleted his number, erased our pictures, removed every trace of him from my world. Then I looked in the mirror and saw someone I no longer recognized, a woman who had been reduced to sorrow. That was the moment I decided. I wouldn't let Jason's betrayal define me. If he had moved on, then so would I. But not in the way he expected. I was going to rise from the ashes he left me in. And when the time was right, I would return. Stronger. Unrecognizable. And when he saw me again, he would realize the truth. He had lost something irreplaceable. Something he would never, ever get back. Heartbreak is a peculiar thing. It can either crush you completely or awaken something fierce inside you. And in my case, Jason's betrayal had done exactly that. It set fire to everything I had been, burning away the weak, lovesick girl I once was. For weeks, I had allowed myself to wallow in misery, letting my sorrow consume me. But that was over now. I was done crying. Done feeling like a discarded afterthought. Jason had moved on, so why couldn't I? But I wouldn't just move on, I would become someone he could never ignore again. Someone he would regret leaving. And that journey started now. The first thing I did was strip my life clean of anything that reminded me of Jason. Our pictures? Deleted. The gifts he gave me? Gone. The love letters? Burned. I even threw away the dress I wore the night I planned to surprise him, the night he humiliated me in front of everyone. It was painful, like peeling away layers of skin, but it was necessary. I needed to create distance between the person I was and the person I was about to become. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. I looked exhausted, broken, but beneath that pain, something else simmered: determination. This isn't where my story ends, I whispered to myself. This is where it begins. I had spent so much of my life revolving around Jason that I had forgotten what it felt like to just be me. To live for myself. So I started small. I joined a gym, channeling my pain into every push-up, every mile on the treadmill, every punch against the heavy bag. The more I sweated, the lighter my heart felt. I changed my hair, cut it shorter, dyed it a richer color. Something bold. Something that screamed, I am not the same girl you left behind. Then I focused on my career. For too long, I had placed Jason above my own ambitions. But not anymore. I applied for better opportunities, took risks I never would have before, and slowly my confidence began to return. And with confidence came power. The whispers began before I even noticed them. Friends who had pitied me after Jason's betrayal were now looking at me with wide eyes, murmuring about how different I seemed. Stronger. Bolder. Unstoppable. Even Emily, the woman Jason had chosen over me, seemed uncomfortable when she saw me. I ran into her at a coffee shop one morning. She was sitting at a table scrolling through her phone when I walked in. The moment she looked up and met my gaze, something flickered in her eyes: shock. I wasn't the broken girl she had laughed at that night. I wasn't the woman who had begged Jason for answers. I was different. And he saw it. I ordered my coffee and walked right past her without so much as a glance. That moment? That was my first taste of victory. But I wasn't done yet. It happened at a mutual friend's party. I hadn't planned on going at first. The thought of being around people who had witnessed my humiliation was daunting. But then I realized, why should I hide? So I went. And the moment I stepped inside, the entire room seemed to shift. Jason was there. And when he saw me, his expression was priceless. I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't expecting this. I had walked in with my head high, confidence radiating off me like a force field. My transformation wasn't just physical. It was in the way I carried myself, in the way I owned the space. The girl he had left behind, she didn't exist anymore. And when our eyes met for the first time since that night, I saw something I hadn't seen before: regret. But regret wouldn't save him now. Because this was only the beginning of my comeback. Jason's eyes locked onto mine, and for the first time since that humiliating night at the restaurant, I saw something I never thought I'd see: hesitation. Not arrogance. Not indifference. Not the smugness he had worn when he declared that he had moved on. No. This was different. His gaze lingered a little too long, his posture stiffened, and I could almost hear the unspoken thoughts racing through his mind. I wasn't the woman he had left behind. I wasn't the broken, teary-eyed fool who had stood in that restaurant, begging for an explanation. I had changed. I had risen from the ashes he burned me in. No. I was untouchable. I smirked slightly, just enough to let him know that I saw it, that flicker of regret. Then without a word I turned away, leaving him standing there. God, it felt good. I didn't see Jason again until a week later. It was unintentional. I was out shopping when I heard someone call my name. I turned around and there he was, standing a few feet away, looking unsure of himself. It was such a stark contrast to the man who had so easily tossed me aside that I almost laughed. "Hey," he said, stuffing his hands into his pockets. I raised an eyebrow. "Hey." He exhaled sharply. "You look different." I shrugged, feigning indifference. "I guess that happens when you remove toxic people from your life." His jaw tightened. He wasn't expecting that. "Listen," he started, stepping closer. Can we talk?" I tilted my head. "About what?" Jason hesitated, as if struggling to find the right words. For the first time he seemed unsure of himself. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know. You've just been on my mind a lot lately." There was the first crack. Jason didn't say it outright, but I knew what he was trying to do. He was testing the waters. He was trying to see if I was still that same girl, the one who had loved him so blindly, who would have dropped everything just to be near him again. But I wasn't her anymore. "Jason," I said, keeping my tone cool. "You're with Emily, aren't you?" Something dark flickered across his face at the mention of her name. It was quick, barely there, but I caught it. "Oh," I continued, pretending to be oblivious. "I assumed you'd be too busy with your perfect relationship to be thinking about me." His jaw clenched. "It's complicated." I almost laughed. "Complicated? That's what people say when the fairy tale starts falling apart." "Well, I hope you two work it out," I said, giving him a polite smile before turning on my heel and walking away. I didn't need to ask what was wrong. I already knew. His so-called happily ever after with Emily wasn't so happy anymore. And the realization that he had let go of something good, that was starting to eat him alive. After that encounter, Jason started appearing more and more. First it was subtle. A text here and there, short, casual, like he was just checking in. I ignored them. Then I started running into him everywhere. At coffee shops, at the gym, even at the bookstore where we had first met. Coincidence? Not a chance. One day he finally stopped pretending. "I miss you," he admitted, standing in front of me with a desperate look in his eyes. I didn't react. I didn't let him see the satisfaction curling in my chest. Because this was the moment I had been waiting for. Jason had finally realized what he lost. But it was too late. I had already won. After that day, Jason's attempts to reach me became relentless. The once arrogant man who had so easily discarded me was now the one chasing, the one craving my attention. He started messaging me more frequently, first with harmless check-ins, then with late-night texts that carried far too much weight. "I can't stop thinking about you. I made a mistake. Can we just talk?" I ignored every single one. Jason was drowning in regret, and I wanted him to feel it. To sit in it. To understand exactly what it meant to lose me. But he wasn't the only one unraveling. The cracks in their perfect relationship became more obvious. Emily wasn't the smug, confident woman I had seen that night at the restaurant. No, something had shifted. She knew Jason was slipping away. And she knew exactly who he was slipping toward. I ran into her at an event, and for the first time she didn't look victorious. She looked nervous. "You think you've won, don't you?" she hissed, pulling me aside. I smirked. "Oh, Emily. There was never a competition." Her eyes burned with jealousy. "He's mine now." I took a step closer, lowering my voice. "Then why are you so scared?" She clenched her fists, her confidence cracking right before my eyes. I didn't need to take Jason back. I didn't need to beg for revenge. I had already won. Because the thing about betrayal is, it always comes full circle. Jason reaches his breaking point. I should have known Jason wouldn't give up easily. One evening he showed up unannounced at my doorstep, looking completely unraveled. "Please," he begged, his voice raw. "Just hear me out." I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe. "You've got 5 minutes." His words spilled out like a confession. "I thought Emily was what I wanted," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "But I was wrong. Being with her made me realize how much I gave up. How much he swallowed hard. "How much I lost you." I tilted my head, pretending to consider his words. "You left me, Jason. You humiliated me. And now what? You just expect me to forget it. His shoulders sagged. No. I need a second chance. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. A second chance? I repeated, stepping closer. Tell me, Jason. Did you even hesitate before replacing me? Before choosing her? Silence. That was my answer. And just like that, whatever part of me that had once loved him died. I smiled, slow and cruel. I'm not angry anymore, Jason, I said. I'm just indifferent. His face fell, the weight of those words hitting him harder than any slap ever could. Because that was the real punishment. Not screaming. Not crying. Not begging. But showing him that he meant nothing to me now. And that realization? It destroyed him. Jason left that night a broken man. And as I closed the door behind him, I knew this was my final victory. The moment Jason left my doorstep, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. No more pain. No more heartbreak. No more waiting for closure that I once thought only he could give me. Because I had already given it to myself. Jason was nothing more than a lesson now, a painful, humiliating lesson, but a lesson nonetheless. And now that I had fully let go, the future stretched before me like a blank canvas. And this time I was the artist. As I moved forward, Jason crumbled. Word spread quickly, his relationship with Emily collapsed not long after that night at my doorstep. It was messy, public, and painfully ironic. She had used the same cruelty on him that they once used on me. She discarded him just as easily as he had discarded me. And suddenly Jason was the one left behind. The one who was humiliated. The one who had to watch from the sidelines as I thrived. I heard through mutual friends that he tried reaching out again even months later. That he regretted everything. That he missed me. But I didn't care. His regret wasn't my problem. His pain wasn't my burden. I wasn't his safety net. I threw myself into my career, into new friendships, into me. And for the first time in forever I felt free. Not just from Jason, but from the version of myself who had once believed I couldn't exist without him. But I could. And I was doing better than I ever had before. One evening I found myself at a rooftop event, overlooking the city skyline. A soft breeze brushed against my skin as I held a glass of wine, laughing with people who truly valued me. I turned, and in the crowd I spotted Jason. Alone. Watching me. His eyes were filled with everything he never had the courage to say. I met his gaze for only a second before offering him a soft, knowing smile. Not a cruel one. Not a vengeful one. Just a smile that said, I have moved on. And you will never have me again. Then I turned away. And this time I never looked back. Because true revenge. It isn't about making them suffer. It isn't about proving anything. It's about rising so high that their existence no longer affects you. And I had won. Because Jason, he was just another story in my past. And I was finally free.